I guess you could call this video this week's updates on things, because things are again moving so quickly. So I wanted to show you guys this. I built this recently for just one flight, really a demo for somebody that's kind of important that really needed to see something like this working, and it was successful. And something really interesting I want to share about this craft. So if anybody's been around for a really long time, they will have realized that we have come a long way from when we started. We started flying 2204s and 1806 motors, and we were running them on 3S, and then we moved to 4S, and then even some people are running 2204s on 5S. So we're kind of like, and then 6-inch props also on 2204 motors. We are really accustomed to overdriving our components. And so when you build something that's large like this, what happens? And this is kind of like the large scale racing platform, which a lot of people are already experimenting with and know a whole lot more than I know. But what I basically did was, first of all, I had problems finding the components for a craft like this because DJI has basically monopolized the aerial photography market. But I finally found the Emax 4008 or 4008. It's 40 width, 8 height, 600 kV motors. And the struggle was that these motors are really old, and they were like the last motors that were in the Emax factory. And so they were only rated to 3S, but when you look at the weight of each motor, which is like 120 grams or something, and you compare it to like a race motor, you're kind of like, well, it's a heavy motor and it's spinning so slowly, it should be able to take 6S just fine. So I'm like, all right, well, I can't find any other motors, let's give it a shot. So what did I do? I put it on the F45 ESCs that I already had, and there's a Matrix Insanity PDB in there. It's a race PDB in there because crafts of this size don't really draw much amps. And I was running it on my 6S 8000 milliamp China Hobby Line batteries, which, by the way, perform like any other large battery that I've ever used. And I put 14-inch props on it. So again, this motor was rated for 3S and 12-inch props, and I'm running 6S and 14-inch props on it, and it did just fine. Just fine. So this is literally like 4 times the power rating that the motor is rated for, and it did, I mean, only flew for like 5 minutes, and it did come down kind of warmer than I'd like, not burning hot. So I did eventually move down to 13-inch and then also down to 12-inch, but it worked fine on the 14-inch also. And if the battery didn't weigh so darn much and it wasn't too big for the craft, it probably would have been sustainable as well. Anyways, the rest of this craft is using the Eagle Tree Vector, the micro vector stuff, just because I wanted to test that stuff. The Eagle Tree stuff is just phenomenal. Their OSD is second to none. It's just like the amount of information on the OSD and how well it works is like nothing that we've seen. And they've had that OSD for many years. So they're like generations ahead in the OSD department. Although I wouldn't recommend their stuff for multi-rotors. I've had much better success on planes than multi-rotors, so I'm going to leave it at that. And this thing is going to be sold now because I have nothing to do with it. Anyways, let's continue. This is a battery discharger from ISDT. And this is a problem that you won't have unless you fly a lot of packs and you come home with partially charged packs, and you'll probably struggle to discharge your packs on your home charger, which discharges at anywhere from 0.3 amps to 0.6 amps, which is ridiculously slow. So they made this thing that discharges much faster in the field, and it'll discharge at 6 amps, and it'll also take an 8S battery. So it takes about, I don't know, 20 minutes to discharge, 20 minutes to discharge a 1300 milliamp. It also connects to the computer, so you can change the settings on what voltage it stops discharging at. It's a lot more useful than I ever expected. I never have to say last pack again. Now, I'm not telling you to get this exact one, but there's things you can rig up on your own, but it's just a problem to recognize if you've been flying a lot. This quad is by far the best quad I have ever flown, and the components of this quad is going to be in the description below. The frame is going to come out very soon, probably about a week and a half. Take note of that GoPro mount. I'll talk about that later. I finally broke my soldering iron of 5+ years, and yeah, so I like nice stuff, but things like soldering iron I don't really care for, because as long as it works, it works. And so I scoured Banggood looking for a new soldering iron. I wasn't really willing on spending a lot of money on my soldering iron because, I mean, the crappy $8 one lasted me 5 years or more. But I picked up this one. I don't remember how much it was, like 20 to 30 bucks. and I was really surprised by the quality of it. So I'm only showing it here so that you know of a source. Honestly, that was the main reason why I got it, because I had an on-off switch. But it's a good soldering iron. This is a thing that I just came across today at Puroflip. So this is made by Chris. This is a pod that he made for the Floss 2 frame. Now, this one is printed in TPU, which I originally saw and thought, okay, well, that's not going to really hold up, because the whole thing about this design is made that it needs to have the top plate in order for it to be secure and solid, or else the frame will be super flimsy and flex around and break easily. At least the main plate will break easily. But this print is printed from nylon, and it is freaking tough, yet it still has some malleability to it. It still molds and flexes a little bit. It won't crack on impact. It doesn't feel like it's going to crack on impact, and it gives structural integrity similar to a carbon fiber top plate. So if you like running your I literally just found this in Puroflip, and I started talking to him because this is so freaking awesome. This material just felt so good in the hand. If you run a battery on the bottom, this is a freaking beautiful beautiful pod for the Floss 2. I really appreciate anything like that. In that same regard, check out this. It's a session mount that Brian Phillips has made for my my new Acro prototype, and we've come up with a new mounting system, but that's not what I'm showing you. What I'm showing you is that the green filament is lighter than the orange filament. So if you compare these two, these are the exact same prints. This one is 1 gram lighter than the orange filament, and I'm a person that I design frames like 1/4 gram at a time. So 1 gram is a really nice savings for me. I've talked to him and asked him to try to make it a little bit lighter. Maybe he will. But yeah, these freaking mounts are awesome because they just save my GoPro most of the time. The gate breaker, I've had the gate breaker for a while now, and I'm planning on doing the video on it pretty soon, but I'm supposed to discuss this prop along with the other things that Luminaire engineers are working on with the Luminaire engineers. Just hasn't happened yet, and I want to put it in the review because I think they can offer a lot of insight and special information that I think everybody would appreciate and like to know. And let's continue. I finally burnt out my first Asgard. Finally. And this burnt right when I plugged it in, and it probably burnt out because I was flying in an extremely dusty environment in Texas, in a super, like, behind cars with like dirt trails coming off them, and I think like a piece of metallic dust probably got all over these capacitors, and that's why it blew up when I plugged it. It literally blew up and then just caught on fire when I plugged it in. Yeah, I would say this is probably my fault, but I have also asked Underground FPV to conformal coat the next version of the Asgard or their Kamikaze boards, and that is upon us as well. The Kamikaze board, as you may know, is pretty much the only board that I run anymore because it's so awesome. It's just an upgraded Asgard, but they've upgraded it with a lot of stuff, so it's really, really good. Yeah, if you're for all-in-ones, go for it. If you're not, don't. There is always a risk of something burning, but the next version will do a lot more, and it will be conformal coated, and I'm really looking forward to it. And other all-in-ones, I have had this for about, I don't know, like 2 weeks now, and I just haven't had time to build it into anything. But this is the 15 amp all-in-one by HGLRC. It has an OSD on board also. I'm pretty sure it's using the Omnibus firmware because that seems to be the standard for everybody to use. And it looks pretty nice. I don't know about this company. I haven't really used any. Well, I've used some of their ESCs in the past, but that was a long time ago, and I don't think they were very up to par with current technologies. But they've changed a lot of things, a lot of things by now, and this actually looks pretty good. So I'm pretty excited to put it in this quad and replace the. This is the Spark from Raceflight, which has been okay, but I've had some kind of inconsistencies with it, so I'm kind of anxious to swap it out and see how this one does. Also, it's one board, so there's no more flight control or anything, which is super nice, always. Last but not least, we have the Crossfire, which is nothing new, and I've shown before, and I've wanted to do a segment like best and worst FPV products, but things come out so quickly that are worst that list would never really end. This product, if I had like the product of the year kind of award, I would give this product of the year and probably the best product in FPV to come out since FPV started. Honestly, like the sense of security that I get when I fly with this thing is unparalleled. I can literally just fly without any, my worry when I fly is if I can find my way home, and that's only because I haven't started using GPS modules yet, which apparently I have to use a special one for a special reason that I'm learning very quickly. Also, my battery life. I've become very aware of my battery life, and yeah, these are good concerns to have when you don't have to worry about your control signal anymore. Your video signal is fantastic. I mean, there's so many amazing things about this. Like, Team Black Sheep is seriously they seriously do innovate in this industry, and it's hugely appreciated. This is a fantastic product, and it just works. It works really, really well. That's all for today, or this week, I guess, and don't forget to floss.